Hello and welcome back to Bernò. Today, as mentioned in the previous episode, we are going to expand the city a little bit more. I'm starting off by moving all those random buildings out of the way, as they could potentially bother me in the process of expanding this neighborhood. I also decided to change this corner a little bit more. What I basically did is grab the node and move it a little bit further out, which resulted in me having to readjust all those buildings and move them back into place, but that was no big effort, it was quickly done. I also had to rework this little corner we've got over here. In my mind, this is a street food corner. Those are not too common in my home city, as normally you would get your food from a proper restaurant, sometimes from a food truck, but those are either in markets or in the industrial spaces of the city. The inspiration for this I actually got from real life when I visited Poland, for example, which has a lot of these all over the place. And I liked it very much, honestly. So I decided to add them in Bernò as well. And I already added quite a lot of them all over the city, where you can basically go to grab something to eat and quickly move on. I think that's one of the freedoms you have when you choose not to rebuild any specific city or any city in any specific country, right? Moving on, I also tried to move these keys into place, and I struggled with this one for quite some time, as it kept flipping in the opposite direction for some crazy reason. In the end, I decided to go with a combination of two segments instead of one, and it worked. Sometimes the game forces you to take away you wouldn't have taken otherwise, and it makes everything a little bit more beautiful, right? I mean, look at it, it looks a lot better than just having one wall, right? So I'm starting off by placing this church in the middle of this neighborhood we are currently building. I made sure off camera that it's oriented to the east. That's the main reason why you see me tinkering around with the roads a lot and never with the church itself. At least not with its orientation, right? So I wanted to have some kind of a main plaza for this neighborhood, mainly to reflect on the past of it, as in my mind, this whole neighborhood used to be a small farmer's town back in the days, which lied right outside of the borders of Bernò. But eventually, over time, as the city kept expanding, it got swallowed up. That's probably something that happened in the 18th or 19th century. We will see about that. So that's something I wanted to reflect in the road layout. I didn't want to make it too obvious, as the village probably got torn down while the city expanded. But in my mind, some of the roads stayed where they are, and yeah, I wanted to give a few hints to the history of this whole corner of the city, before it became a city. So I'm using this road you see there as a planning road. I place it. I plan out all the roads, and I play around with them until I'm happy with the end result. And then I upgrade them into the type of roads that I actually want to have in that spot. And then most of the times I keep it like it is, and rarely come back and change anything. So this neighborhood is actually called Lafayette. Yes, it has a name. It's a name generated by the game's districts mechanics. I thought it was pretty fitting, so why not keep it? And I mean, I already did a similar thing on the other neighborhood we have, which is named Bernò. Only there I changed it a little bit to make it sound a bit more French. Yeah, if you have any better names, feel free to post them in the comments, and I will take a look at them, and yeah, maybe use them in future builds. Who knows? So moving on, I'm placing down the first buildings in this new neighborhood we are currently building, and as you can clearly see on screen, I'm plopping all of the buildings. So far, nothing in Saint-Bernard has been zoned. Every building is manually plopped and moved into place. I'm also not planning on zoning anything in the foreseeable future. When I started playing City Skylines, I obviously used zoning, but as my focus shifted away from the game mechanics and more towards detailing, I got pretty fed up with how everything looks like with zoning, especially when you try to build a European themed city, right? So that's basically the time when I moved to plopping. And yes, it takes a whole lot more time to plop every building manually into place, but the results you are able to achieve on that are totally worth it. So let me quickly talk about what's happening on the screen. I'm placing down a whole bunch of buildings roughly in the positions where I think they would go, and when I'm done with it, I go into move it and notch them into their final position. Sometimes I end up with these weird little gaps, and most of the times I copy a building and glitch them together so it looks as if it's one building. That would be mainly the perfect opportunity to use PO, but again, I'm still too afraid of using it. Mainly because I'm scared I wouldn't be able to achieve any more progress, because I would hang up myself with minor details, which are not too important. So for now, I'm sticking with this method, which is not too bad in my opinion. I mean, it looks presentable. I wouldn't be doing these kinds of videos if I thought otherwise, right? So what you see on screen is a pretty cut out version of the actual work that went into it. Mainly me scrolling through the menus and looking for the perfect buildings, which I could place in those empty spots. As this is pretty boring, I decided to leave you guys with a shorter version of me placing down the buildings. But let me quickly talk about the previous episode. I'm not too happy with how the voiceover of it turned out. For some reason, I always get a little bit nervous when I start these recordings. I think that's something that's gonna improve in the future, probably. And I hope until then you're gonna be patient with me and give me the time I need to practice these kind of stuff. So back on track, I randomly decided to complete the road layout of this neighborhood. It's by no means the final positioning of the roads, but it was more as a mind bridge to better help me think about everything while building the city. So I recently discovered a new mod. It's actually a pretty old mod, and I feel kind of stupid for taking so long until discovering it. It's made by Gradius Twin, and it's called Dynamic Resolution. Yes, that mod. For the few people of you who don't know what this mod does, it actually provides better anti-aliasing settings, as well as enables you to render the game at a higher internal resolution than the game's native one, which basically means everything looks better depending on how good your graphics card is. It actually makes me wanna redo the cinematics video I did some time ago all over again. But again, I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. So I think I'm gonna keep it. Maybe in a future one, as soon as we were able to achieve more progress on the city. We will see about that. As you can see, we have quite a terrain difference in this neighborhood. We have quite a terrain difference in the whole city, but in this neighborhood as well. And where I feel it the most while working on the city is actually when I start detailing, especially the backyards and all these little corners. I mean, I could go the easy way and cover everything up with trees. But again, that would be the easy way. I prefer putting a little bit more love and effort into it and make it look pretty even from close up. So moving on, I decided to mix things up a little bit and do some detail work. I'm working on the upper right corner or left, depending on the view on the city of Lafayette. It's right next to the big library. And yeah, right here you can see what I was just talking about, that bridging the terrain difference is a part of the detail work which takes a good amount of time. At the beginning, when I started this project, it was always a challenge, but after a time, I would say I got used to it. And yeah, I most of the times use a combination of surfaces and walls or hedges or something similar. Yeah, to bridge those gaps, and I would say I'm able to achieve quite an okayish look with those techniques. So I'm quite happy with how this corner here turned out. The contrast between those fancy gardens in front of us and the apartments in the back, yeah, I like it quite a lot. I mean, the buildings the gardens belong to are shabby as well, but man, they have fancy gardens, right? And in the end, it's the question to have a fancy garden or not to have a fancy garden. Yeah, I also decided to add this little public plaza right here. Basically, just a gathering spot for the people living in this corner, so they could meet up and talk about whatever the people living in this corner are concerned about. Yeah, I'm also covering up this ugly hole we got right there, and yeah, adding a wall and surfaces to make it look pretty. And again, I end up with a triangle, and this one I decided to turn into a playground. And the inspiration for that I got actually from a video I watched about Amsterdam for quite some time ago. So if I can recall it correctly, in the 70s, Amsterdam was pretty fed up with casualties they had on the roads, and they decided to change everything and make it more bike and pedestrian friendly. And in the process of doing so, changing the streets and all that good stuff, they ended up with a lot of little triangles and squares they didn't know what to do with. And then, I guess it was a city planner, but I'm not quite sure about that. Anyway, someone suggested that they could do little playgrounds there for the kids, in the city whose parents don't own a garden, so they could be able to go outside and play. And yeah, that's basically what they did. And today, you would find a lot of small public playgrounds all around Amsterdam, which in my opinion is pretty nice. So I imported that idea to Saint-Bernau as well. And as we are going to expand further out of the old town, we are gonna stumble upon those corners more often, I guess. And we are gonna build a lot more of these beautiful playgrounds. So moving on, I returned to this corner we were working on in the beginning of the episode. I decided to make the place for the plants a little bit bigger. It was quickly done, but I struggled a little bit with the surface painter and its jaggery edges, but I covered it up with bushes of all sizes, and yeah, that was basically the solution. I'm also adding a whole bunch of greenery right here, flowers, bushes, trees, everything, just to round up the look of this little corner we've got right there. I also decided to add some decals, as we already added a lot of love and attention to this corner here. So why not go that extra mile, right? Also adding some people park generator, just to make this whole area a little bit more lively and visited. And yeah, to improve on the stats of the city in general. Yeah, we had another one of these weird triangles. I quickly filled it up with greenery, and here I decided to add some chained bollards to add some more protection to the people sitting outside. And at some point I noticed that people wouldn't be able to actually cross the chains, so I removed a couple of them and replaced them with normal bollards. So this is the last scene of today's time lapse. It's basically a video of me detailing this blog's backyard, an uncut version of it. I decided to leave it like that, mainly because I detailed a few more backyards off camera, so you get an idea of what I actually do there. So all the backyards in Saint-Bernau are detailed, some with a little bit more love, some with less love and attention, but all are detailed. It's something you don't see from afar, but it adds so much on the close-ups, and yeah, I pretty much enjoy it a lot. So why not go that extra mile, right? But as we are getting closer to the end of the episode, I would ask you to follow me on Twitter if you want to see more screenshots of Saint-Bernau. I post them there from time to time. You could also go and watch that 2 minutes cinematics trailer I was talking about. I highly recommend that. It's gonna be linked in the upper corner of the video. But that's pretty much all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like. Subscribe for more in the future. Go and enjoy the cinematics. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, have a good time.